I got this idea from Moscow X, who is the voice of Goku in the Team 4-Star abridged dub of Dragon Ball. You can check his video out in the description below. First, I must say, people will consistently say the Namek Saga when just talking about this season, or the Great Saiyaman Saga, which doesn't exist because that's the Great Saiyaman season. And Dragon Ball Z is stacked up of 3 sagas. Yes, I said it. The Garlic Jr. Saga doesn't count. And, oh look, it scrambled. That's weird. Let's find it. Okay, I will make the bold prediction and say that the Saiyan Saga in Dragon Ball Z is the pinnacle of quality for the show. That my counter argument against people who say they want Snake Way is that time is Toriyama's comedic relief for the show, and the time that is actually valuable, that is well spent in the series, is the groundwork that is being laid out for Gohan and developing the audience's relationship with this character. Now, this being the pinnacle of quality isn't to say that Dragon Ball Z hasn't gotten better, so we might find something that equals that in terms of quality. Next season, the Namek Saga. This is also a very polarizing season. See, I just said saga again. My bad. It's also a very polarizing season in Dragon Ball Z, in the Dragon Ball Z fandom. A lot of people will say that it's not very good because the Ginyu Force are stupid. And there is another school of thought which thinks that the Namek Saga is one of the best. Sorry, I said it again. Namek season is one of the best seasons in all of Dragon Ball Z, because Vegeta, we really get to learn a lot about the Saiyan history and who he is as a character and what motivates him, and really developed him, made him to one of the most interesting anti-heroes in all of anime history. It showed that Frieza is a formidable foe who's very feared, and it laid a lot of groundwork for him as a character. But I do think they did spend way too much time on fake Namek and traveling through space and doing the Dragon Ball thing and looking for Dragon Balls, but this time they don't exist and it's just a dream. And it's a weird battle way to get straight to Namek, like Dragon Ball Z Kai did, and yeah, it's way better. So I'd put this, given that Vegeta is such a badass and it does a lot of work on Namek with Gohan, Krillin, and all those adventures. Takes us to the Frieza season of the longest battle in anime history between Goku and Frieza. This isn't even including the long battle between Vegeta and Frieza and Piccolo and Frieza. This is where Dragon Ball Z, in my opinion, starts going off the rails. Power levels just became so ridiculous that it just didn't matter. In my opinion, this is one of the most overrated seasons of Dragon Ball. There is the payoff of Goku going Super Saiyan. There is the dramatic moment where Vegeta dies at the hand of Frieza. It's one of the best performances. But all that is just lost in endless battles. And I understand it's when the manga and the series got closest, and that definitely dropped it a few points. I'm going to be generous. I want to say good, but it is pretty great. The Goku going Super Saiyan. Some people think this is the best season of Dragon Ball Z, and I have to disagree. 3.5 hours for one battle is as much as you love it as a kid. As an adult, you understand storytelling in that regard. Which brings us to the Garlic Jr., and they call it Saga, but I disagree. It doesn't count. It's not even a thing. This was the concoction of Toei. Akira Toriyama did not create this. It was created in order for the anime to gain some distance between their show and Akira Toriyama's manga. And that's the only reason why it was created. And it's really, really, really dumb. The villain isn't compelling. The stuff doesn't make sense. It doesn't even look the same as the show. It's like super saturated for some reason. And yeah, I just thinking about it kind of makes me sick, honestly. Team 4-Star did a better job with it by making it all about Krillin and how he got screwed by Marin. And how her name ended up being Marin too, and how they pointed out. Yeah, good job, Toei. Gosh, making it the same name as his future daughter, really? And plus, Garlic Jr. comes, and he does the same thing he did in the movie, and was easily defeated again. There's terrible writing, headache-inducing, and that's where it's gonna live. It's unwatchable. I want to talk about one of the greatest anime moments. Yeah, right there when Trunks shows up and just completely owns Frieza, and then you think Trunks is the strongest guy, and then Goku shows up and he stops Trunks' sword with one finger. It's a huge, amazing, mind-blowing moment. And the season keeps going strong. Yeah, they have the 3-year time jump, but there is the issues of it wasn't these androids because the editors didn't like the design, so it was these ones, and then the editors didn't like that design, so Toriyama made. And then Cell shows up, and everyone's like, WTF? But things move along pretty swiftly, and the heart virus is a nice twist to find an actual sensible way to make Goku vulnerable. Is an internal disease, and it was a good way to, for a short amount of time, for things that mattered, like Trunks and his relationship with Vegeta, which is an important relationship that has seeds planted for future seasons. So I put this season right up here. Although there were a lot of villains that seemingly one-upped each other, they did it in a very sensible way, and it was super wise of Akira Toriyama to not use Back to the Future rules of time travel and to go with string theory, which, by the way, is what Avengers Endgame is saying. So that's awesome. Thumbs up over here. So this season I call the Imperfect Cell season. This next season. Imperfect Cell season. I have one who's just like sucking people dry out in the streets throughout the city, and since he doesn't have a power level, it's hard to track, just like the androids. It was genius to have Cell hunting the androids. A great way to make a 3-sided conflict where you have the Z fighters, then you had the androids, then you had Cell. Although the Imperfect Cell stuff was really cool, it seemed like they rushed towards the ending, especially with like Vegeta falling for Cell's bait of Vegeta wanting to fight like the strongest person. Like Vegeta was like such an amazing tactician in the Namek season, and then he all of a sudden just hands Cell again. I have to think about this more because in the Frieza, like Vegeta wanted to beat Frieza at his strongest here because there was the revenge factor of Vegeta being oppressed by Frieza his whole life. But here, Vegeta's pride is like through the roof, and it comes out of left field, in my opinion. But I do want to say what's really one of the really great things about this season in particular is the seeds that were planted in this season about these relationship between Trunks and Vegeta are at its climax here, and there is the payoff of Trunks standing up to Vegeta, and that's something Vegeta has never had before, and it's actually really here, and that's actually the second month this season. People consistently cite this as the best Dragon Ball Z season. In fact, I would say most Dragon Ball Z fans think Gohan's apotheosis moment of reaching Super Saiyan 2 is like the best in all of anime history. And there is a lot of evidence to how much groundwork has been laid off for Gohan. In fact, I have a whole video about how much work went into Gohan for this payoff to happen. In fact, there is some debate, well-documented debate, about when the series was intended to end, and some people say Toriyama wanted to be finished at the end of Frieza Saga, and then he set up the end of the Cell Saga. And I would not have minded if Dragon Ball Z ended at the end of the Cell Saga. I do knock the Cell season, this season, perfect Cell season, some points. After Gohan makes Cell puke and then self-destructs and Goku dies at the hand of Cell, that was unbelievable. Like, if the show ended there, or just the saga ended there and now Gohan had lived the rest of his life knowing he killed his dad because he had the power to defeat Cell but didn't, would have been so poetic and amazing and courageous writing. But because Dragon Ball Z is heavily dependent on Goku for its success, at least that's what Toriyama was led to think. Goku obviously stayed on King Kai's was dead, but Cell magically reappears because all of a sudden he knows instant transmission, because how that happened, who knows what. So I knock it a few points there, but I would say in terms of Dragon Ball Z quality, it's still at the pinnacle. It's still among the best that the show has to offer. So now we get to the Buu Saga, which starts with the Great Saiyaman season, and then people call the Majin Vegeta season, and then ends with the Super Buu Kid Buu stuff. So a lot of people hate and despise the Great Saiyaman season. So I understand why people didn't like the Great Saiyaman saga, because you have what Cell described as beams that could destroy the solar system struggling against each other, and you have Gohan, who was just built up to be this amazing protagonist who has all these abilities. It was the strongest by far of any character we've seen thus far in Dragon Ball Z, to within a couple of episodes, Gohan, that one character who's put up on this pedestal, will be this endless potential to all of a sudden be this nerd in high school. And I really understand what Toriyama was going for, because he's trying to build relatability in Gohan's character, given that he had already fully closed the arc of his build-up from the prior sagas. And also, I think he was trying to reach new audiences with introducing high school and the anime trope of the protagonist in high school, surrounded by the challenges of high school, as well as the challenges that they face that are not of this world. But I think that, I get what Toriyama was going for as well by trying to have a protagonist in high school, but that's really, even in the early 90s, an overused anime trope. And Dragon Ball Z, nowadays, people tend to think that Dragon Ball Z is and overuses tropes, but back then they were doing a lot of groundwork and inspiring a lot of shonen, new shonen ideas, and it just so happens that those ideas stuck, and now Dragon Ball Z kind of blends into all that. But they were the first to do a lot of things, and audiences and readers definitely missed the uniqueness of Dragon Ball. So that's why I put the Great Saiyaman season right here at poor. Next, the Majin Vegeta season. Talk about payoffs. Vegeta's big payoff is his sacrifice at the end of this saga, because there is a dark return for Vegeta. And it's something that is so believable to to hardcore fans to this point, because they do know what Vegeta has been capable of, how he is a former person who enjoyed genocide. So him blowing up a couple hundred people in his stadium is not surprising at all. Absolutely unbearable to see for Bulma. Really surprising. I mean, Trunks didn't see it, but that stuff is gold in writing. The big part, of course, is the hug with Trunks at the end, and then him sacrificing himself for Boo. If that was the primary storyline in this saga, I mean in this season, because it's not, and audiences are completely fooled by that as well, this would absolutely be the pinnacle of quality of Dragon Ball Z. But actually the primary storyline in this story is Fat Boo and Akira Toriyama's I'm at a loss for words, because honestly I think Toriyama was spiteful of the editors and Toei and Shueisha at this point, because he was tired of Dragon Ball Z at this point, so he went back to his gag manga roots and made Fat Boo. And he wasn't a serious antagonist, and that really makes this whole season suffer, and tarnishes Vegeta's sacrifice to some extent, because Vegeta killed himself to try and stop Fat Boo. So that's why I put this at pretty great. It kind of evens out between the pinnacle of quality and good. So here's the end of Dragon Ball Z. We get to the really weird stuff: Super Boo, Gotenks, Fusion Dance, Vegito turning into candy and then splitting himself apart within. Super Boo would absorb Gohan to take Gohan, Gotenks, and Piccolo out of him. Fighting worms inside Super Boo, and then Kid Boo is now stronger than Super Boo for some reason. How characters get stronger. The payoff at the end, no matter how much it's stretched for it to be epic, with Hercule getting some redemption by asking Earth to give their Earthlings to give their energy to Goku's Spirit Bomb, isn't quite enough to pull this one out of the heap of crap that was laid out prior to it. And then, for no reason, you have the time jump forward with first a couple years in the future, and then even further in the future with Pan, and really adorable moment with Goku giving Pan, not quite the ending people liked to see in Dragon Ball Z. So that's why I put this at good, because it did start out like pretty terrible with just you're trying to transition from Fat Boo to a serious antagonist, and it had some great moments, as with Super Boo, where he basically wiped out all the Z fighters on the lookout, and Piccolo had to take Goten and Trunks into the time chamber, which, side note, forgets only 2 people can go in at once. And Gohan once again unleashed potential to fight Super Boo. Was really, really cool. It had such up and down moments, so this is evidence to why, in my opinion, Dragon Ball Z is as popular as it should be, and for good reason. It's a good show. Sure, there's silly moments like Fat Boo and the eternal struggle between Toei and Toriyama, as evidenced by the Garlic Jr. saga. But you have excellent payoffs like Gohan Super Saiyan 2 and Majin Vegeta. And you have amazing twists, like 5 episodes in of a series as an extension of Dragon Ball, and you have the protagonist who you followed throughout all of Dragon Ball to die in episode 5. Really? You have Vegeta, who antagonist into one of the most like respected and loved characters, protagonists in all of anime. Like, yeah, it's good. So, what are your thoughts? That's my tier list. You should make your own. If you send any, let me know in the comments if you make any. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.
Here we go.